that's always been my pathway to success. I've got to fail a couple of times. I'm gonna fall a couple of times, but I tend to pick it up again, a couple of years later.
Welcome to Insights into Success. We're with your host Paul Dodds. We hope to educate, inspire and motivate you to achieve your own personal success. We talk to guests from all around the world from a variety of walks of life to hear the realities of their own journey to success. What challenges have they faced? How have they coped with failure? And what have been the keys or will be the keys to their own success? In our Read to Succeed interviews, we talk books that have inspired our guests, and for some, they share their secrets to marketing success. Join us as we give you insights into success. First of all, welcome to Insights into Success, John. Really fantastic that you have made the time to talk to me. I know you're busy, changing from being an agent with a team of 13 to now owning a branch. Is, I'm sure, a lot of work and a lot of responsibility. So thank you for taking your time to share with me this morning. I just want to kick it off, though, by sort of getting to understand, to what extent you think your childhood in Manila has shaped who you've become now.
I'd probably say it was really a massive change because, growing up in Manila, we didn't really have anything. Dad didn't have anything, obviously like the car, but we really relied on like one source of income, which was grandma. Dad's income was not, I think he was selling real estate back in the Philippines, but his income was very unstable. Ups and downs, but I didn't really understand too much on how he was transacting back home, but it was very different. Like coming here in New Zealand, coming back into the Philippines, everything shuts down back home at 3 o'clock. And you're either at the pub or you're drinking, or you're with mates. So I think I just didn't like to be in that sort of situation because I've seen, Dad at that sort of, stages in his life. It wasn't me. So I think by the time that I hit college, injury, I was playing basketball for my school, injury happened, and I think probably a year before, like 2 years before finishing school, I just decided, look, one, I was not really well connected back home, even from sports. So the only way out for me was just to go abroad or go overseas. So no one back in my family was overseas. So I really just had to, take a leap of faith and hoping and praying that everything goes well. And eventually, I ended up here. So Dubai first, I think my first stop was in Dubai, and then Dubai to Abu Dhabi, then here.
So I read somewhere that you were actually really good. You excelled at sports. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I played tennis at a very young age. I think I started playing tennis at 6, quite competitively. Played for schools, played for juniors. Tennis was not really, I didn't really get a lot of scholarship from tennis back home. So I had to play 2 sports to get into good schools. So I think I started playing 2 sports at the age of probably 10. From 10 till 14, I had to drop 1 sport, which was tennis. Because from high school, I just couldn't get any scholarship from there. So in order for me to be in a better school, I still didn't go to a better school. I think at 14, I think when I went to college, which is like university year, I think it was either 16 or 17. That's when I actually got into scholarships with college back home, but just through sports. So I was never really been academically bright or brilliant. So it was really more sports-minded person.
And to what extent do you think that your sports played a part in your career now? Like, do you think the discipline that you would have had from sports, that's translated through to what you're doing now?
Well, I'd certainly say so, though, Paul, because I've committed so many mistakes in sports. I've injured my ACL twice. I've tried to go back, tried to do a comeback, re-injured it again the second time around. I just felt like I've always had the mentality that if I really want to do something, I'll go and get it. So regardless on, what, um, probably my mentality was like the only person that could stop me is really myself. So, and same thing in real estate. I guess sports played a huge part. I've failed multiple times. I've hurt myself multiple times. And I guess having that sort of, there's two words that I've always used, that I still have, which is really discipline and consistency. But again, you can't really control injuries in sport. But again, in real estate, you don't get injured unless you do something quite silly. But I think I'm mature enough that I've got to look after my name here in New Zealand and my family. So.
Yeah, I guess from the injury point of view, it's probably more with your industry is more a case of taking good care of you mentally and physically so that you can do the job, so you don't get sick or have a breakdown or something like that by, I guess, things getting out of control.
Yeah, you're right there, Paul.
And so
mental side wise, like you've got to be mentally prepared. Like in sports, like you've got to be physically prepared for it, and also obviously mentally prepared. But in real estate, I feel it also plays a huge part. Physically, you've got to be very fit, from what I can see, and also mentally, you've got to be really switched on.
So before real estate, I think if I've researched correctly, you were in the airline industry. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, airline industry? Yeah, I was a flight attendant with Etihad Airways. So I think I was flying for probably 4 years. But yeah, that's where I think that opened my eyes to different culture, to different ethnicity. Because pretty much back home was either dealing with Filipinos and no one else. So I think I've had so much respect for a different religion. So really, it was that's when I actually learned that I mean you get to know every single person in every walks of life, from 20 years old and going up to 40 and 60 years old. You tend to they tend to share their stories, and sometimes you learn from them. So I was flying for 4 years, and that's where I met my girlfriend, which is my wife now, Jenny. So. Yeah, so met in Abu Dhabi on a flight to Manila, and she shipped me over here in New Zealand.
And what motivated the decision to get out of the airline industry?
Oh, good question. I backed, so I didn't. There was no motive for me to actually leave the airline industry. I think we got fired by the airline industry because I had to back up my wife due to her medical history back then, and it's something to do with the medical systems back in Abu Dhabi, and that I was not really too pleased with. So they terminated my wife, and I had to back her up. And they said, "Look, John, if you don't apologize, we'll probably fire you as well." I said, "No, I didn't apologize." I think for me, what was I will stand for what's right. And that's always like what's I think it's principles in life. And if I truly believe that I'm doing something right, then so I've really they fired me because of siding with my wife. So
Yeah.
here I am. So I didn't really leave. I would have loved to stay in the airline industry. I do miss it. My wife and I miss flying together.
Yeah.
But things happen for a reason.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, you've gone on and made a difference because of it too. So, do you think, like, when you're in the airline industry, do you think it's helped you in terms of your customer service, like how you deal with people? Do you think it would be different if you hadn't had that experience?
I'd say it certainly helps. Maturity helps. Dealing with different cultures certainly helped. I looked at it. Customer service was an integral part of my business in real estate, and it's no different to the airline industry. So customer service starts from the time that you actually book your flight. It starts from the check-in counter, then it starts from the boarding gates, then it starts, then you deal with the flight attendants, then you deal with the pilots, then you exit the plane. So it's no different to, real estate. The customer service starts from the moment the client picks up the phone and speaks to you. So
Yeah.
what's the level of service that you'll probably provide the client, from the time that you actually meet the client at the door, the way you greet the clients at the door, then how you'd probably approach that client during that pitch or that opportunity. Then when you exit that opportunity, what sort of service do you actually provide? So I've looked at it as if I own the airline industry. So same with real estate. Customer service starts from the time that someone picks up the phone, or the flight that you actually drop, or the people that you actually approach, or you speak to over the phone. That played a very important role, 100%.
So you arrive in New Zealand, you decide to get into real estate, and you find yourself an agency. What I'm particularly interested to know is, given you're from another country too, so you've got a lot of things, a lot of challenges on your plate all at the same time. How did you manage? What was the keys to getting through?
How did I manage? I think because I didn't have anything though to lose though, Paul. It was always something that I could gain daily. Like I think my first job interview took probably 2 hours or 3 hours, to the point that the owner of that company said, like, John, do you actually have a license in real estate? I said, no, but I'm actually willing to actually get my license, to a point that every single company back then, no one wanted to hire me, but it was only Ray White that opened my doors. I think this was Ray White Ellerslie that opened my doors and said, look, we'll take you on board. And I just completely been transparent with them, saying, look, I don't have my license. I didn't like to waste anyone's time. I said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes just to get a license. So from there, they just guide me through on the process of obtaining your license. So it probably took me back then, this would have been probably 14 years ago, probably 2 weeks to obtain my license.
Oh, wow, fast.
Yeah, I think there were only two assessments back then. So in total, like, I did have a license. I was just observing most agents for like a month. Then after a month, I already had my license. I think this was like early 2010, January is when I got my license.
Okay, so you had your license, you got no clients, you're still pretty new to the country as well. What did you do?
I really learned the hard way, Paul. Unfortunately, no one really shared too much information on their success stories.
Yeah.
I've always asked, I've always asked, what do I have to do? And unfortunately, I was just given a disc and a phone. Say, look, here's a landline, here's your disc, go and sell some houses. So I really had to learn. I really had to ask a lot of questions. Mentorship, mentorship was not something that I had when I started. Like, I really had to search for it. And I've always remembered interviewing, other agents, just to get their story, just to get how did they make it in the industry. I interviewed Ron Thompson. I think Ron Thompson back 2011 or 12. But it only took me like 5-10 minutes just to get a brief on what they've actually done. But again, they didn't really go too much in detail on how they met in the industry.
Yeah.
So in reality, I've learned the hard way, wherein I had to commit not errors, but no one really shared too much information. I think the only person that I would probably think was back 2011. He was not a real estate coach. He was more of a motivational coach called, his name was Nick Stewart. And he pretty much just said to me, like, John, just dream big. Like dream big, you'll make a lot of failures in life, but just don't do the same failure over and
Yeah.
over again. And ever since then, all I did was trial and error. But I think the sad part was it took me 3.5 years just to crack it. Like if I was taught from day one, I would have made a difference. But I don't have any regrets. I like all the mistakes that I've done. I've learned from it. Haven't done it again. So, but
Did you
a lot of it.
and did you have many times when you thought, I don't know if I can do this. This is too hard, or did so did you ever have self-doubt, or you always just
Oh, 100%.
confident?
100%. Because I think I had my first listing after 7 months because I didn't know how to knock. I didn't know how to really knock on someone's door. I didn't know how to speak to them. I didn't know. I didn't have any structure, nor process. So I think the first listing I had was it was a deceased estate. I think it was the beneficiaries that was trying to clean up the house, and I just knocked on the door, and I had to call in a manager. Did I learn something from that campaign? Yes, no, but should I been guided the right way? Possibly. But no, I didn't really get much training though, Paul.
So it was just really on your own.
It was really on my own. Like, I didn't get it. Like when I was trying to apply for jobs, like companies in the area did not even wanted to hire me. So I think for me, like I just wanted to prove a point. Like you don't believe in me, I'm fine. I think I get really fired up when people doubt my ability.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess that's probably the point of difference. Like whenever someone says something negative about me, it actually builds a lot of fumes in me and just try to prove them wrong. But I don't really say much. I'm just going to prove it based on what I've done in the industry.
And you said that it took 3 years before you cracked it. What do you think it was that meant that you ultimately cracked it?
The base, having the right structure, learning how to communicate with clients, having that sort of day-to-day consistency, but just the day-to-day things that you've got to be doing as an agent, how to be able to actually speak to the clients, not a typical salesperson. You're really just being a human being. You're actually just being yourself, but you're being very transparent with them. And just building a good name. I think my branding was really myself, obviously backed up by Ray White. But I think for me, it was just more so, I've just got to look after my name. I'll try to look after the clients with my best endeavors and see what the outcome. But for me, it was really building a relationship. If I knew how to build a relationship probably a year or two ago, different story. But I probably learned that the hard way. I've jumped from different companies to one company to the other. Then I think the fourth year, that's where I blossomed. But again, purely the way I spoke to clients, the way I serviced them, and also it's also my consistency of door knocking. I was just hounding the doors. If I knew that, probably I was door knocking on my first year, but I just didn't know what to say. I
Right.
had no clue. So I'd knock on the door and just ask them, like, are you looking at selling? And wrong approach. It took me at least 2.5 or 3 years to say myself like that was completely wrong. I should have been taught well, or I should have asked how you knock on doors, but I just had to learn the hard way.
One thing that I'm aware of that you did, which I think is a super smart thing to do, and I'm interested to hear your feedback on it, was at some point in your career you decided, I don't know if it's exclusive or not, but you certainly decided to go after Stonefields, a suburb in Auckland, and just really kind of like cover the area and effectively end up dominating it. And I guess one of the interesting things about Stonefields is it is physically kind of contained. It is like this little environment on its own. But tell me a little bit about that, because it seems like it was a really smart thing to do, and you had a lot of success with that.
So 2000, 2000, I think, 14. No, actually, mid to the late 2013 is when I started with Ray White Stonefields. So I was given an opportunity with, am I allowed to name names? I'd
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
it. So Hayden Broadbelt was the owner of Ray White Stonefields back then. And I guess back in 2013 or 2014, mid 2014, I was searching for my next move, which is I've now cracked X amount. I was writing at least 400K GCI back then, which is to me, that was a lot of money. Then I always had a chat with Hayden back then. I said, Hayden, I remember having coffee catch up with him on a Wednesday, and I said, Hayden, how can I write half a mil, or how can I write $1 million? And God bless him. I remembered his words. He said, John, you're dreaming. You're dreaming too big. So ever since that coffee conversation with him, I had to go and search for, like, who are the people that are successful in the industry. I just wanted to have a chat with them. No intentions to move, because I'm loyal. Like, I'm loyal with the brand. I'm loyal with whoever believes in you. But if someone doubts me, I'm out. Like, mentally, it was not. I'd rather surround myself with people that believes in me. And this person right here didn't really believe. He pretty much just told me I was dreaming too big. So ever since then, I said, no, we're not going to be in line. We're definitely not going to be in line. So I had a chat with Raymond Ramiro, Megan Jeffy, and someone must have found out that I was having a chat with Megan, and reported back to my old boss at Stonefields. And the next day, my bags were packed. Literally,
Oh,
I couldn't even enter the office. Bags were packed. My computers were outside the office at Stonefields, and I was literally in tears. I didn't know what I've done. My wife was so angry, but and I didn't have any other option but to go, okay, where else to move? So the same day, Megan took me under her wing. In the same day, no, the next day, I think I was just mentally stressed. Like, I didn't know what, like, coming to New Zealand, I never thought that this would happen. Then the next day, Megan just told me, like, what are you going to do now? And I just told myself, well, I was so driven to take down Stonefields, to take down Red and White Stonefields. And the first line, and I just told Megan, look, I'm just going to write down my goal. I said, I've been in the industry for 4 years. I think I know what I'm doing now. And I think what fuels the fire is I got terminated. So I said, look, first goal, take down Ray White Stonefields. I said, I want him out. I want to take down that office. So Megan goes, how do you do it? Well, I said, knock on every single door, every single day. So I think 2014, I made a couple of sales. 2015 is when I got market share. 2016 is when 16, 17, I probably had 80% market share. 2000, I think 18 or 19, Ray White Stonefields, I think he had to sell up because he was not making any sales. He had like probably 1% market share.
wow.
And he had to close down. So it was bought down by another principal back then. But for me, that was my biggest motivation. For someone who said, look, I'll terminate you because we're not in line, or I had a chat with one successful, principal. I didn't have any intentions from there. So that's where Stonefields actually took off for me. I think everyone knew me because I think I had a very strong market share in Stonefields, but that's a story behind it.
Wow.
But Stonefields was really one massive platform for me to showcase what I'm capable of doing. So a lot of clients that would say, like, can you sell my house in other suburbs or Riviera or St. Heliers? Or some clients would say, John, can you actually travel to Tauranga? I'll do it for a client. as long as they believe on what I'm capable of doing, I'll travel. And ever since then, that's when my process and my structure, and I've always said to clients, like, I probably consider myself, I'd love to say consider myself a doctor, Paul, but I'm not a doctor. But imagine yourself, you're a doctor in Central Auckland. You can't forget being a doctor in South Auckland. So I've always said the same thing with me. Wherever I travel, the process and the structure of the cell remains exactly the same. You're pretty much getting me and my structure.
But does that not become problematic? Like, if you're having to one moment be, say, selling a house in Stonefields, and then, at the same time you're needing to sell a house, I don't know, somewhere in South Auckland or something like that?
Not really. I think I had a team. I think I started my team in 2015. I had Stephen and a PA, Clarissa back then. But I was just managing the staff. I didn't have any. I don't think there would be any issues with it, because understanding the suburb or the property that you're selling is probably the easiest part. Understanding the buyers are the hardest part, and I guess that's the biggest difference whenever I do transaction properties. A lot of agents go, "Hey, this is a 4-bedroom home," and CV's at 2.2 in Remuera. But no, I think for me, it's just, just processes is just very different though, Paul. So regardless of where I list, whether it's in Manukau or in Tauranga, or I had one in Herne Bay, it's exactly the same. Nothing's changed.
Yeah. So
Nothing's
tell me,
changed.
when you're saying when you started cold calling, you'd knock on the door and say, do you want to sell? So by the time you perfected your art in Stonefields, what were you saying to them when you knocked on the door? If you weren't saying, "Well, do you want to sell?" How were
Just
you
no,
approaching it?
my approach there, Paul, was never like, "Are you actually looking at selling?" My approach back then now is like, how could I service you guys long term, or how could I keep you guys posted with the marketplace? So it's not selling some, it's not telling, it's not probably informing them that I'm looking at selling their property, but for me, it's more like trying to service them. And from there, you just try to build relationship. They might like your service, they might like your monthly stats or your monthly callbacks with them, just talking about the market. But for me, it's just having a brief chat. I'm just going to say, "Hey, Paul, John Q here. I just wanted to say hi. Wanted to introduce myself in, let's say, Parnell Road. Look, here's what I'm just about to offer. With the immediate neighbors that you've got, Paul, would you guys be interested in just receiving this monthly stats?" That's it. I'm not selling you anything. But I think for me, it's more of, I just wanted to build that relationship over time, because in over time they could go, you might reject me now, you might reject me the second or third time around, but you'll see me in the street going back, every month, and just say, like, to a point that you're just going to get sick of me and saying, "Paul or John, like, can you pop over? I'll give you my details. I've now received your stats." But that's always been my approach. Nothing's changed from even till the day. Yeah.
So with like so many real estate agents out there, what's the difference between those that are successful and those that either come into the industry and then leave, or they kind of stay but they're not really, maybe they're doing it just for entertainment or to do something, but what's the difference? Because they say, like, sort of, it's like the top 20% are the ones that succeed. What do you think of the differences in that top 20% compared to the rest?
Probably they've got goals, they've got boxes that they need to tick, they've got a purpose in life, is one. And they stick to it. Very disciplined. Consistent is one word. You could be disciplined in what you're doing, but if you're not consistent, you're not going anywhere. But look, I can't really speak for a majority of the industry. I think for me was, people believed in me. The support that I had, I think from my success in 2014, it was really my family. It was my wife, who supported me on it. But the agents who hasn't been successful, I think they're so afraid to speak to successful agents. Like, drop your egos, pick up the phone, have a chat with us, because it's these agents who's made it in the industry are actually willing to actually share that knowledge to them. They just either fear to pick up the phone and ask John you know, what has he done different? Like, how did he make success in real estate?
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's really don't be afraid to ask. I've asked my whole career, and like even until this day, now that we're branch managers, I've always asked like, what's next? What could I do? What else could I do? I always ask my wife. I always ask the CEO. Is there anything else? There's always something there to learn. Like even though you're the greatest agent or you're the best negotiator or you're the top agent from the office, doesn't mean that don't ask, still ask.
And I
Still
guess
ask.
now that you own a branch, one of the challenges for you is to convey all your knowledge to all your team members. Whereas before you had your own team, so I'd imagine you're kind of more just focused on that. But now you've got, I think you're mentioning 60 odd staff now.
You could only lead. How do you like? You could only motivate the people that that believes in you. Like having 60 agents doesn't mean that they're willing and able to do the exact same route as you've got. But I think for me, it's just again building that relationship with these agents, and hopefully they would trust me on it. There's no better way to learn from someone who's actually done it from scratch. Someone who hasn't been in New Zealand, who's got 0 clients. I've got a proven track record. But again, at the end of the day, it's nurturing these agents, making them feel that they're heard is one, and making sure that it's not just going to be a quick fix, Opal. I think some agents take a while, but as long as they're making slight improvements, it might take me a year or two to not mold these agents, but to coach these guys. But I'm patient with them. I could really see some changes with some agents here, so which I'm proud to say that I'm seeing a lot of success from the other agents in the office now since I took over.
So, how would you like clients to describe you?
What you see is what you get. For me, it's just transparent.
Yeah.
Just transparent. There's no hidden agendas with me, Paul. I can't fluff things around because it just doesn't work. Wouldn't really work in the industry. I'll say it. I'll say it in a very polite way. If it's not working, I'll say it. If their expectations are too high, I'll probably say it. But yeah, it's no different.
So tell me, at what point did you decide to start building a team, and what was the thoughts and motivation behind that?
I looked at it as you can't. It's like through sport as well. You can't win championships alone. If I look at the successful agents or successful offices in New Zealand, they're not successful because of, I guess, just themselves. They had a lot of support. If I look at Ray White and Hull with Kerry Smith and Dan White, there's a lot of supporting crew behind all the success of Ray White, all the success of Barfoot's, all the success of Bailey's. So I said to myself back in 2014, why can't I implement that in as a salesperson? So I started off experimenting PAs. So PAs was very common back when I got my PA back in 2014.
Yeah.
Then I said, okay, what are the things that I need to do to do more things probably consistently? And that's when I actually got associates. So associates came into play. Then I got busy. I had another associate, had another PA. Then it was really nonstop growth from there. And I had another client care. There was really nonstop growth since 2015. But I was all experimenting. I've probably failed a lot of times when it comes to what their roles are and how their roles would really look like. So there was a lot of trial and error, probably over the last 3 years. And I think I managed to crack it. I think 2015, doubled my business in 16, and ever since then it just skyrocketed.
And how have you managed to keep them? Like, as in so far as you bring someone on, you're training them up to be an agent to help you. But what's to stop them then going, okay, well, that's great, John, thanks. I'm going to do my own thing. What's been the lure to keep them within your fold?
I've probably learned the hard way. I was probably quite ruthless and somewhat blackball sometimes with a lot of the agents because um, I've had associates with me over the last 8 years, and some listing agents who's been with me for probably 5 to 7 years actually. So they still are with me till this day. But the other agents, like, I would know whether they would last or not. I generally would say, hey, Paul, I don't think this would be working for you, or you've got a very different way on how you approach it. And it's not, you're not aligned with me. And I just had to, they normally just quit by themselves and move on to a different brand, or sorry, different office at Ray White.
Yeah.
And I don't really see any improvement on them, which is a shame because I've actually trained them, but still old habits. But it's just a matter of being consistent and being hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but some agents, either you actually really want it or not. That's probably the question. If someone really badly wants it,
Yeah.
they'll do everything they can. But the agents that's probably left my team and still in the industry, I don't know. Can't see their name up on the board.
And so for you now that you own an agency, what does that mean for your team? Like, are you still out there with your team and you've got obviously the other members of the agency, or how does that all work now?
So I'm still a selling principal. So I don't know when I'll step down, but I don't interfere with their clients because I want them to grow their own clients. I'll just teach them how to nurture, restructure their team. You know, what has worked with me, I'll just share it with them. Some of the agents are trying to restructure, trying to tweak their teams, what their roles would actually look like. But my sales are pretty much my clients. So if I come across, let's say, a client who's actually selling a development site, you know, in Meadowbank, I normally either give it to the agents in the office instead of me taking it myself and actually sell it myself. I think the office would actually benefit from it. So I normally just give it to other agents here in the office. But I've only taken over though, Paul, over the last month, but I've really been approached by, you know, developers. Who do I have to speak to? I've spoken to, a couple of developers saying like, who do I have to speak to? I said, have a chat with, you know, here are the teams that I'd probably recommend. I'm not really selfish though, Paul. I think for me, the biggest success is I want to see these agents be trained the right way. So when they start on day one, they know what they're going to be doing day to day. And I just want to see them grow. I want to see them go up on stage, get some awards. I think majority of the top agents here in the office would love to go up on stage. I said, I'd love to see you guys go up on stage. I said, how could we do it? So I'm just there to actually back them up.
And how important has your wife been through this whole journey so far?
Well, like she's pretty much the most important person though, Paul. She's running the household, she's running the kids, and she's now running the business. So I can't, you know, she does everything really. So if she could juggle the household with 2 kids plus a dog and a nagging husband, I'm pretty sure she could run the business. But I told her this is her baby. But I worked with Jenny when we were both flight attendants, only for like a couple of flights. I think just a handful of flights of 10. Like I've never seen this side of her when it came to buying the business. Like even working from a day to day, she normally stops work, you know, even at home, when the kids, you know, are all tucked in bed, she's still on her computer, like doing bits and pieces for the business and trying to innovating stuff. But it's just nonstop, and it's so cool to actually see that she's now she's always been part of the business, Paul, from day one. She knows every single movement that I'm doing in my team. but now she's probably more of like she's the overall person, really, the office, not necessarily me.
And
So,
does she ever sort of pull you aside and say, hey, John, look, I think,
well,
I would suggest you should be doing this or that?
Oh, 100%. Of course. I still commit the same mistakes. But she, again, I always stand to be corrected. But she plays a very important role. So anything to do with management stuff, that's definitely her. I just stay away from it. Anything to do with contracts, legal stuff, I just hand it over. But anything to do with like restructuring, coaching the team, mentoring them, what they have to do day to day. She knows all of it because she's seen me do it. And I think 15, 14 years, 13 years ago, she was even with me while we were pushing our little one, Jackson, back then when he was a baby. She was pushing the pram and dropping off flowers, and I was door knocking at the same time. So she pretty much knows the yards that I've been through. So thanks to her, it's not, you're probably talking to the wrong person, Paul.
So tell me, like, obviously strong things that come through are consistency and discipline. Can you talk me through what a typical day looks like for you? What time you get up and what you do and so on?
Well, I'm probably I wake up at 2:45 every day.
It's at 2:45.
Yeah, in the morning. So I'll probably have my first meal. So I've got two. Probably I'll wake up at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll probably have my first meal. This is just today, but this is my normal day.
Yeah.
I'll wake up at 3 o'clock, have my first meal. I'll probably leave the house by 3:20. I'll be in the gym by 3:30. Then I'll stretch. I'll be in the mats by probably 3:45, 4. Then I'll do a workout from 4 o'clock to, that's workout cardio, to probably 6. I have to be home by 6:30. So that's 2.5 hours, probably 5 times a week, sometimes 6 times a week. Then drop off the kids. 6:30 till probably 7:30 is just prep the kids with Jenny, the meals, and I've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old turning 5 daughter.
Yeah.
So from 7:30 we've got to be out of the house. And that's when the school drop-offs. From 7:30 to probably 8:20, and we're here at the office at 8:20. Then from the office at 8:20 is just catching up with managers, catching up with Wayne, seeing how our day looks like, and really just checking up on all staff. I think for me, I'll be able to manage my day quite easily, but I just want to make sure that everything's running smoothly, from PAs, from if someone's calling in sick, do we have someone to actually relieve on it? If the agents are sick, is there anything that I could probably do? So I think for me, as salespeople come first instead of my business. Unfortunately, I'd always go, I'll probably look after these salespeople then, in order, like, instead of trying to look after, no, my business runs itself. I could do it any time of the day, so I don't have any issues managing my side. But I'm always quite worried on, are these guys are they okay? Is everything working smoothly? Is there anything that I could do? But day to day, I always just check up with them.
And do you still do open homes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I still do. Some clients are aware that my teams are doing it, but majority of the times I'm there.
And when does your day finish?
Oh, since we took over or prior to taking over?
Just in general, like you've frightened me with your 2:45, 3 a.m. wake up. So I'm trying to work out what time you go to bed.
My day finishes what time? So it depends. Like on a normal day, I'll pick up the kids and I'll still take them to work. Since we got the business, they're actually enjoying it here. But we probably finish here at work probably around 6:30.
Yeah.
Then dinner, probably the kids should be back home really by 7:30 and hit the sack by 8:30. But that's,
so the kids go to bed by 8:30, or you?
No, kids go to bed at 8:30. either still wide awake or that's like I only have because I've got to wake up at 3. I've got to be asleep before 9:30. Like
Right.
I'm automatic. Like just give me 5 minutes, I'm out.
So
So
you're
from 9
see,
o'clock, I'm out cold.
so you're 5.5 hours a night sleep.
Yeah,
Wow.
just got
Have
used
you
to it.
just become so accustomed to that?
Yeah, I took a week off just lifting. I just wanted to sleep. I think since we took over the business, I did not realize how tiring it was. Just managing the office, managing staff. It literally took a toll on me, and like my body did not adjust. So I just told my wife, look, I'll just focus on the business for like a week. I'll see how my body recovers because it was not physical, nothing physical. I think it was just all the mental stuff in
Yeah.
the background. So I took time off to lift for like a week, and I literally just slept, sleeping
Wow.
from like 9 o'clock and waking up at normal hours, which is school holidays at 7 to 8 o'clock, which is perfect. So I had enough time now, but now my body's like adjusting to the day-to-day routine in the office, and I like routine. Something new, it just shocks my body and it takes me a while to actually recover from it.
And do you think you've achieved balance, life balance? Do you think?
Now we took over the business. The kids have been part of it. Kids are at school from 8:30 till I pick them up at 3. They're still with me. Kids sports, I still do the kids sports. My wife and I do the kids sports. I think every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and back to work again.
Yeah.
So balance for me now, yes. Balance when I was starting real estate, no. It was literally pure hustle. I had to make it work. And I was the breadwinner of the family. My wife was looking after the kids. I really had to make it work. So there was really no balance to be there.
Yeah. You had to get that foothold and
Yeah.
secure your position. So what would be your biggest motivation these days?
Um, what's next? I've always got a what? I've always got a box to tick. I can't really share that though, because
Yeah.
viewers might say something different about me, but I love my cars. I'm very passionate about my cars. I'm very passionate about real estate in general. But my biggest goal right now, since we own the business, there are a couple of agents, probably at least 5 teams in the office that I'm watching closely and trying to mentor them bit by bit because I do want them to flourish in the business. I do want them to flourish in the industry. Like I think having like seeing them buy another house or buy another cow, it's also an accomplishment for me. So, but I could only control what I can control.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
But sky's the limit. I'm probably say, hey, after the business, what's next? What's after owning the business? Can we? I don't know. There's a lot of things in my head, but I want to take them off. I still have boxes to take off though, Paul. Big
And I guess
boxes.
so, like you've just bought your first railway agency, so it'd be only natural to maybe think about over time accumulating more branches.
Yep. Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
And
We just don't
carry
know.
on.
We just don't know. We don't know opportunities in the future, but I'm always opening. I'm very open to growth, but not just growth for myself. It's growth for the other agents who's been with me from day one. So I'd love to see them hit their targets, hit their goals. I know some of the agents here at the office want to own their own branch. Look, I'll try to make it happen for them.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting perspective, because I mean I subscribe to it. I think it's great, but not everyone sees it that way. Some people can be very protective, and the thought if they hear an employee, a bit like your former boss actually, they feel threatened. And if one of their staff said, "Oh, I want to own an agency one day," that would be seen as a very much a negative, which to me is short-sighted. But a lot of people would see it that way.
Some principals would probably see it as a threat, but for
Yeah.
me, don't. I've been stopped, Paul, by um, we've been denied, declined to grow further from a salesperson. In fact, it's been 2020, sorry, 2019, and when I started exploring business ownership. This is when I was at Ray White Remuera. I think
Yeah.
the hope of getting into it, and we were rejected multiple times, again, fueled the fire going, look, I'll keep going. I'm just going to keep going. There's going to
Yeah.
be opportunities out there. It's probably not my time now. I've been rejected in 2019, rejected again in 2020. Then 2021, an opportunity came. I said, look, let's take a risk. And here we are today, 2023. It took me a while. Unfortunately, that's always been my pathway to success. I've got to fail a couple of times. I've got to, fall a couple of times, but I tend to pick it up again, a couple of years later. But it's been
And
a 4-year journey for me and Jenny.
and don't you think though, because you've had to fight for it, because you've, had your challenges along the way, that when you get there, it's that much more rewarding? Like if you got there straight away, say for instance, you got your branch first time you went for it, do you think you would have appreciated it the same?
I probably would agree with that, Paul. It was this purchase in Parnell was definitely, it was a long journey. It was not given easily. You had
Yeah.
to fight for it. There were a lot of obstacles around the purchase, and I really took a gamble at the end. There were no there were no contracts in place coming to Great White Parnell, but I just had to trust the principal, Phil. So until now, he's still the principal of Parnell. Sorry, he's still the licensee agent of Parnell. I still work alongside him.
Yeah.
I've got full respect for Phil because again, that's an opportunity for me that he wanted to see me grow to the next level, which is great. I took the risk of, it was really a gentleman's handshake, Paul. And
Oh.
whether you see it these days, you say you've got first rights to actually buy the business eventually, but I didn't expect Phil would step down this early. So for me, it was really unexpected. Got a phone call last year saying, looking at selling. I said, great, let's make it work. But never expected it.
So from what you're saying though, I just kind of wonder whether, part of what's happened here is, you've developed your relationship skills, and with Phil, you've cultivated that over time, and through that this opportunity's arisen as opposed to it going to somebody else.
Oh, I'd probably say so. I think we've obviously built a name for ourselves. We've built a reputation. I think Phil respected the fact that most of the staff, or majority of the staff that I had, stayed really long term. I've always tried to look after most of them. Like from PAs who's been with me, from associates, from listing agents, probably averaging, they're probably been with me for 5, 6 years. Just
Wow.
trying to look after them. It's hard to do it, but look, I'm not a perfect leader, but I try to try to motivate these guys, try to push these guys, but you could only do what you can do, Paul. Like I try to motivate these guys to actually grow within the business, and I'll still continue to do the exact same thing in the business. So like what you said, if someone wants to get a branch get a branch manager's license, or have their own agency, that's doable.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to approach it, I think, and I think you're more likely to get loyalty through that, and
Mm,
they're actually more likely to stay on. But if you push them the other way and go, well, no, you know, I feel threatened, and try and quell that desire, then
yep,
they might do what you did, and leave that much quicker.
yep. Well, that's exactly what happened to me when someone just told me like you're dreaming too big, or ambitions are too big, then you're not in line with me. So I think for me, with all the staff here, like if you guys are willing to grow, I'm willing to help you guys out. As long as you believe in how I do things and you trust the way I do things, then we're definitely in line. But if you've got any doubt, like even with clients, like if you've got doubt with your agent, then you can't work with that agent. Same with the agents here. If you've got doubt with the principal, then you can't work with the principal.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so just to wrap this up, I'm just wondering, John, if you could just sort of contemplate for a moment and share some wisdom on what do you think are the keys to people succeeding with their goals in life? So it doesn't need to be real estate. It's whatever people's goals are in life. What do you think are the key ingredients that are required to go ahead and succeed in achieving your goals?
Good question. Is never repeat the same mistake is one.
Yeah.
Listen to the people that's actually done it and who's actually, who's been there, done it. And having the right mindset. Because having the right mindset, no one can compete against you. Like if you've got the attitude of, I'll stand up, I'll fall, I'll stand up again. You might fall again, I'll stand up. You'll go places. And I guess mindset for me was we've had struggles, or everyone's got struggles in life, but I think mindset was a very crucial part for me. But again, people do stupid stuff, just don't do it again.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. So you've got to be your own number one cheerleader, don't you?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Mindset is
All right.
everything.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, and I know you've been very generous in your time this morning. So, look, I really appreciate it, and you're a great ambassador for the real estate industry, from my impressions at least. So, yeah, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you spending that with me.
Thanks for having me, though, Paul. Appreciate it.